So as I've mentioned, I would prefer if you started on an underarm with your hot wax procedures, just because you've got a nice flat surface to work on and it's the easiest one to start with. So as with any of our waxing, first thing we've got to do is check the direction of the hair growth, and you'll normally find with the underarm it can go in quite a few different directions. This one here we've got going down on an outward angle. We've got a little bit going straight down here, but I think we'll be able to pick that up with the bottom lot. Then we've got a little bit going straight out in the middle, and then at the top it's coming up on a little bit of an angle as well. So we need to do those in separate patches. The first thing we need to do is prepare our area with our pre-wax solution. So just spraying the area, making sure it's well rubbed in. And what you can do at the same time is also prepare the other arm, so that can be drying while you're doing this one. So I'm just spraying a little bit on my other underarm as well. Now, this is where you may want to introduce some talcum powder, especially in the warmer weather. If your client is a little bit sweaty, you may find that the talcum powder will just help everything stick a little bit. But as I've covered already in the strip waxing, you just need the tiniest little bit. So just a few sprinkles like that. Take a clean cotton ball and just rub that over the area. That's all that you will need, so you really can't even see where you've put it. So we're going to take a clean spatula, and we will be using a new spatula for each patch of the underarm. So you can see my wax is at the perfect temperature. I've got that solid lump in the middle, and I'm going to be taking my wax from around that area, not from the edge of the pot where it's really hot, from where closer to where it's more solid. So my first dip, I'm just going to get enough on my spatula just to do that bottom patch. Actually, I'm just going to take a little bit of that off. That's probably a little bit too much. And just turning your spatula and applying with a little bit of pressure down and out a little bit in the direction of that hair growth. And remembering to make sure that that patch is nice and even all over. So you don't want any thin bits that are going to snap. And particularly, dispose of your spatula, particularly down the bottom where you're going to make your lip. So now we're just going to give that a couple of seconds just to go a bit firmer. Then we're going to push to embed the hair. Just make sure that that patch is ready to come off, which it is. You can see I'm not sticking to it. Now we need to really stretch the skin in the opposite direction. We're just going to hook up a little bit to grab onto, just a small tab at the bottom. And we've practiced this on our arm. We're going to pull pretty much the same as with the strip. We're going to pull it back along itself, not up and cause pulls. So grabbing that tab, remove and support. Now it's very important with the hot wax that you do get that support, because it really helps to take that sting out very quickly. Plus the hot wax is nowhere near as sticky on the skin as the strip wax, so you're not as likely to get in too much of a mess. So we've removed most of those bottom hairs. You can see that I've still got a few left there, which I will go back and reapply my patch to. But I'm just going to let that cool down a little bit. Now I'm going to move up to this middle section that's going straight down. So taking your new spatula, and I've just got a small amount of wax on this one because it's only going to be a very small patch. And just be very careful if you're going to go over where you've already waxed, that the wax needs to be quite cool or it's going to burn. So taking this one in a straight down direction, making sure that patch is nice and even, especially at the bottom where you need to make your tab. Dispose of your spatula. Just give it a couple of seconds to dry a bit. Push to embed the hair. Now because our hair was going down that way, we've put the wax on in the direction of the hair growth. We're now going to remove it in the opposite direction. So stretching the skin down, just making your little tab at the start, get a good grip on it, remove and pressure. And just for these little bits that have been left over, if you just turn your patch over, you can mop those up quite easily. So now we've just got this patch at the top here. So again, taking a new spatula, taking your wax from the centre of the pot where it's not so hot, twirling it all the way from your pot to your arm. Now the hair growth here is coming slightly up, so that's the way we need to apply the wax. Again, being careful of the part that we've just done. And you can see I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on my spatula because I really want to get that hair well embedded into the wax. And making sure that your patch is nice and even. Now once you've got the wax on, it doesn't really matter then which way you go to even it up. You can go back and forth as long as you get that patch nice and even. Dispose of your spatula. You can just give it a little bit of a fan to help it dry a bit. Just pushing down to make sure you've got that hair well embedded. Now the hair was coming up this way and we've applied the wax this way, so we need to remove it in the opposite direction. So just stretching that skin, making your little tab to hold on to, remove and pressure. Okay, so you can see now that we've got just a few left over, probably too much to pluck. So what I'm going to do, just check with your client that her arm is feeling quite comfortable, and if so, we're going to just do another few patches here just to pick up as many of these as we can, and then we can pluck at the end. So now is where you really have to make sure that you cool your wax down quite considerably. So I've taken a new spatula and I'm just going to twirl that quite a bit before I put it onto that skin. You can see it's already a little bit red and it's retaining a little bit of heat. So we don't want to put anything too hot straight back on it. So taking our patch, I'm going to cover the whole area again because there's a few little ones up here as well. So I'm going to do exactly what I've just done, but with much, much cooler wax. So just applying your patch, making sure it's nice and even. Just had a couple out there that I missed the first time as well. Dispose of your spatula. Just let that wax cool down a bit. Pushing to embed the hair. Stretching the skin. Make the tab. Remove and pressure. And now you can see that that's picked up pretty much the rest of those hairs. There's probably just one or two left there, and we will go back at the end after we've covered this area and just pluck those out. So now we're going to move back to the middle area that was going straight down in an outward direction. So picking up from the centre of your wax pot again, just giving that wax a bit of a twirl to make sure that it's nice and cool. Now you can see that there's a little bit of blood here. Don't worry about that. That is perfectly normal the first few times that you wax really any part of the body. It's not a problem. So spreading that down. Making sure you've covered that whole area. Make sure your patch is nice and even. Dispose of your spatula. Push to embed the hair. Stretch. Make your little tab. Remove and pressure. And just turn your wax over and just mop up any little excess bits. Now we've just got this top area to do again, so exactly the same, taking a new spatula, taking your wax from the centre of the pot where it's not so hot, still giving it a good twirl before you put it on to make sure that it's nice and cool because this area is still a little bit warm from the first time. Taking the wax down in the direction of the hair growth. Make sure that patch is nice and even. Dispose of your spatula. Just give that a couple of seconds to dry. Push to embed the hair. Stretch. Make your tab. Remove and pressure. Turn your wax over and just mop up any little excess bits. Now all we've got is about 3 or 4 hairs up here and just a couple down lower. So what I'm actually going to do now, I'm going to put the after wax solution on, just to take any leftover stick off the skin, just because it can get a little bit sticky, not like with the strip wax. And it just also makes it a little bit easier to see where those hairs are left over as well. Then taking your clean sterile tweezers, you're just going to stretch the skin, slide the tweezers under and pull those hairs out. Just a few up here. So that's reasonably red underneath. It's not because the wax was too hot, it's just that's how your underarm is probably going to look most of the time after your wax. You won't always get these little blood spots, but you will probably get them on anybody who hasn't been waxed before for the first maybe 3 or 4 times. So once your area is nice and clean, we've applied our after wax, you're now ready to move over and do the same on the other arm.